Okay, so yeah, I appeared before the local board earlier in this year, and my interest in preparing was I was interested in the financial circumstances around the Western Springs Park, and to get a better understanding of those. And I note that the Local Government Act says that the local board should act in an open, transparent and democratically accountable manner in accordance with sound business practices. So I guess I was looking at the sound business practices and really just wanted to review what was happening around that. I also ran into problems with the transparency part. I managed to couldn't get hold of information I wanted to see on financial stuff, and I also started running into some other issues. One of the things I ran into is the code of conduct for elected members states that members should treat others, including council officers, with respect at all times. This means not using derogatory terms towards others or about others, including in the public-facing news media. And then I saw a Facebook post by Adriana saying, not being involved, oh my God, honestly, was this after or before I took you to the hospital when you faked your heart attack? Yeah, I haven't been involved in that. So that's why I bring it up now, just to say that this is not good conduct, this is not acceptable. It's not acceptable for any member of the public to make personal comment about councillors. We know the issues in council, we know the issues with people, with the public, and we've seen the effect of the way that the council deals with people, or council departments deal with people on the public as well. So we need to be mindful of that. The other thing that I came across was the council passed a resolution to adopt a thing called the VISA methodology, and there was a motion put forward and the council voted to accept that process. Subsequently, the VISA proposal has not been followed for the work done at the Western Springs Forest, and I was wondering where was the decision not to follow that report? Richard Norby was quoted in the stuff, and it was quoted as saying it was decided that moving away from the advisor advice a better outcome than spreading the felling and removal of trunks over years. So I imagine that was a discussion in council, and a vote was had in council to say, hey look, we voted to accept the advisor proposal, the methodology, we told the public this is what we're doing, and we changed our minds for various reasons. And I tried to get an understanding of what those various reasons may be. And one of the things I had been promised at the last club board meeting appearance was that you'd come back to me with the financial information, and Graham Youngbolt was very good in talking to me with that at the appearance. And I followed him up a few days later, and I've included a transcript of the phone call. But I haven't got the information. I haven't got the financial information, and I haven't received any information on how you changed your mind, who decided to change their mind, where the advice came from or otherwise. So we don't seem to have this open transparency that we're promised under the Local Government Act. I was given 2 weeks time frame for that original information. I've since put in the Lukoima. I've had 2 delays to the Lukoima. We're over 65 days now waiting for that information. It shouldn't be hard to find. It was information you would have had to hand when you made your financial decisions around the Western Springs Park. I was also received assurances continuously whenever I asked about the work being done, was it compliant to the VISA report, because it's only become public knowledge recently that it wasn't complied to. And the consistent response I got from board members and from Pippacoon was that the speak to the CLG told me they couldn't go up, they'd been barred from going on site, and Pippacoon assured me repeatedly that the work was being done according to the original resource consent. That wasn't the question I asked. The question was, is it being done to the VISA methodology? And there is now some serious concern over whether the original resource consent has been breached, and further investigation will show up from that.
Thanks for the answer.
Thank you very much, Richard.
Thank you. Any questions? Yes, Sarah.
Well, you've got some notes there, have you?
I have. I'd like to hand them out, so there's a copy.
I'd be very interested to
Thank
see
you.
them, because this is an issue that I'm very concerned about. The board resolution of the 3rd of November talks about the VISA report being implemented to the extent legally possible.
Yes.
And, sorry, I'm just looking up your name, Liam. Liam, I'm going to reiterate to the extent legally possible. What's your understanding of that as a layperson? I presume you're not a lawyer.
I'm not a lawyer. I'm a business investor. To the extent legally possible means that if you need to change it because you can't drive the tractor up a hill and you said you're going to drive the tractor up the hill, then you have to drive the you can't change the methodology because it's too hard to do. It's to what was legally permissible. The VISA report seemed to describe it was called the lower impact study. Obviously, the local board got concerned about the public reaction to pulling out a forest to plant a new forest, and I was concerned about the finances on that, given the council's current financial situation. And so the council commissioned Professor Ryan Visser to look at it, and he came back and said, look, this can be done in a lower impact fashion, and he put forward that methodology to do it. You as the board looked at that methodology and said, this makes sense, it's going to do less damage to the forest to get those trees out using this method. You approved it, you voted on it, and you subsequently reneged on the deal with the community.
Any other questions?
Sorry, I haven't finished my questions. I'm just frantically looking through the paperwork that you've just tabled. I have received this morning a copy of an email was found by Waitemata from the head of compliance of the council overseeing this project, and it says, it's dated the 18th of March, and I will table it because it's material. The VISA report was prepared by the Friends of Western Springs, which by the way it wasn't, it was commissioned by the council. And it says that the provision of the local board approval for the removals recommended that the VISA report be implemented where reasonable and feasible. Is that the same as legally?
No, that's totally at odds with the resolution passed. It's not the same resolution at all.
So you don't have a copy of that in your...
No, I haven't received that. I haven't done a Lagoima on that. In fact, I've had none of my Lagoimas responded to yet, and I'm just asking for financial information that you would have had to hand when you did the financial appraisal of the different options for managing the forest.
I think I can tell you right now it's about $3 million.
I'm staggered. I'm staggered that you would spend $3 million to do that. But the financial information I asked for was to, obviously a number of methodologies were discussed and available to removing those trees. Someone mentioned using helicopters at one stage, and I know the board looked at that and there were reasons where that wasn't preferred. But alongside that is a cost analysis. You know, I'm going to do some work on my home. Do I put on the extension or do a pool? I've only got so much money, what do I spend it on? How do I evaluate the risks and the returns and everything else? And you guys are acting in an autonomous fashion. It's what the local government act says for your local community. And so you will be weighing up and making prudent financial decisions, and without financial information, you can't factor that in. And you don't seem to have that. I ask myself, why is the Lagoima not being responded to? Is it you don't have that financial information, or is there some other reason that hasn't been proffered yet?
And I just had two very quick questions because I know my local board, fellow local board members will be wanting to ask you questions about the issue that you raise, I'm sure. If implementation of resolutions is important to us. On the scale of 1 to 10, how well do you think the local board does engagement?
I think this local board has difficulties because you've got so offside with your community. I chaired a meeting in Raylin recently, and it was one where I had expected the local board to turn up, expected Graham Dunthorpe to turn up. This was a meeting of I got asked by the Raylin businesses and the local community to chair a meeting within the community and Auckland Transport, discussing their situation losing 150
Sorry,
car
the
parks.
question was about 1 to 10.
I think the
About
example's
equality.
helpful.
Well, it's,
That's fine.
The cheeky answer would be to say 1 out of 10, but it would be better for me to say, I'd like to see you guys try and get it up to 6 out of 10. You know, work with your communities, talk to them, but first of all, you've got to start by listening to them. And I don't see the listening
Did
happening.
you ride a bike here? Yes or no?
For once not, but I'm a keen cyclist. I'm an ex-amateur competitor. I used to regularly do 300 kilometres a week around Auckland on a push bike. Due to an injury I had a couple of years ago, I now ride my electric scooter on wonderful cycle paths.
And I'm definitely going to ask one more question. This I don't know if you've seen the agenda, but there's an idea to liberate the land. And you've nodded. Have you seen that? Is it an idea?
I'm an environmentalist, which is why I drive, you know, I have electric vehicles and ride push bikes and things like that. And I think we've got to change what we're doing in Auckland. We can't keep doing what we're doing. But we also have to acknowledge that something like only 0.1% of all commuter trips are achieved on a cycle. And we are better to spend the money on bus transport and better public transport than trying to multiply that to 10 times to 1% of Auckland commuter trips on a bicycle. So we've completely overinvested in cycling, which suits me from a selfish perspective fantastically, but the idea of spending something like $685 million to ride over a bridge is just insanity. We need to approach this in a much better, more measured fashion rather than being just ideological. We can achieve much better outcomes for Auckland, and we have a climate crisis.
thank you, Alex.
Liam, thank you for coming to talk to
Thank you.
us. This has been one of the most difficult projects we've been there. I
Right,
noticed
thank you.
a sort of motion that ecological outcomes should be the top priority. It was the board's position. I would be very interested in what you find out with regards to appointments. I think, I was just wondering, yes, well that's the point. I would very much like you to share what you find.
Well, if I get a response, I'll let you know. We'd be happy to do that. Thank you very much. Thank you, Chair. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you. So I'll move that one fellow of the board thanks the ambassador for his presentation of attendance at the meeting. Is there a seconder? Second, Graham.
Solutions has not been implemented. And I think that's incredibly important, and we are on dangerous grounds if we don't at least minute that.
There won't be anything. Those in favour will say aye.
Could you just explain why it won't be minuted?
Because the minutes are about decisions that we make.
Precisely, we made it, and I'm sorry, I'm going to have
you
to
cannot
ask.
continue with this matter.
I am going to continue with this matter, so I'm asking. Exactly, that's why I want the public to hear.
We are to hear from them and ask them questions.
Okay, my question to you, Liam, is would you like the fact that the board resolution has not been implemented included in the minutes?
Can I propose a middle ground that my notes be included in the minutes and available to anyone on the Auckland Council
That's
site?
not acceptable to me, but yes, okay.
Right, we're now here from Ricardo Marx.